It's almost like a cartoon, all of a sudden.
Yeah, this is like the iconic fairy mushroom toadstool, the fly agaric, Amanita muscaria. It's profoundly amazing and it's used for both food and medicine. It's like as a tincture for treating pain, particularly things like sciatic pain. It's incredible, like lower back pain. I've got lots of the fly agaric and they get detoxed, completely detoxed, turned into a puree, mixed with sugar and vanilla. I make a sweet rice pudding and it's really quite a fun dessert. Just beautiful. So we're in the Ashdown Forest, which is a beautiful area of woodland in East Sussex in the southeast of England.
So there's a lot of foraging opportunities here? I mean, is there a reason why you're here?
Well, I've lived in this place for 7 years. I came here to do a 3-month storytelling course, and being in the heart of the Ashdown Forest, for someone that's particularly interested in fungi, it's great foraging. And of course, just being in a place where you've got ready access to the countryside is why, after 3 months, I decided to stay, and 7 years later, I'm still here. So yeah. So I'm gonna come in and have a look. Well, I was going to make you a sea buckthorn drink. Now,
Sure.
what I'll do is get some berries. Here's the sea buckthorn berries.
Wow. How long did it take you to forage that many berries? That's an incredible number of berries.
That's just one bag of them. It's not another bag. It took about 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. We got some nice hawthorn sweets. The fruit of hawthorn, if you get them and you mash them up and add some blackberries, which I've done here, and pass them through a sieve, they set solid in 20 minutes because of the pectins. So you can make these medicinal sweets.
What was that you just moved?
What is that? Basically, I made some mushroom chocolate custard. So here's the thing. What I love is where you can get multiple things from the same item, the same botanical. So in order to make chocolate vegan custard out of mushrooms, you need to boil them to get out the flavour. But that first extraction, you don't get rid of it. You reduce it down. When you reduce it down, you get this amazing jelly. So you haven't thrown anything away. You've got this amazing mushroom jelly. But then the fun thing came. Then I blended up the mushrooms and added vanilla, sugar and cocoa powder. And it's just like custard, chocolate custard. It's amazing, and it's out of mushrooms. There we go. We'll get some berries for you. But just before, you could try one of these. So that is the birch polypore, but cooked in a syrup of this berry. So that's the sweet one. And now you're going to get the tanginess of it. Got all the seeds there. A lot of my foraging, these activities done mindfully, sustainably, have served human beings for hundreds of thousands of years. Yeah, nutritional profile of sea buckthorn berries is just off the scale. Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah.
So this is a book. This book took 3 years to make. It's made out of mushrooms. The ink is made out of seaweed extract, oat galls and mushroom spores, and all the illustrations and the paints just come from wild crafted paints. But the point is, if time was irrelevant and you had the creative skills to overcome the technical problems, how could you create a book? So the answer is here, and it took 3 years to make. What I love about this is it's the ultimate self-referential book. It refers to itself in the sense that half the book describes how to make itself, how to make the paper, how to make the ink, how to make the paint. And the rest of the book is recipes from the plants. What have we got here? Oh, nettle sourdough. Collect a handful of nettle tops, dry and flake. Add the nettle flakes to 1 kilo of spelt flour. To this add a pre-existing sourdough starter. Knead into a pliable, non-sticky dough. Spread a handful of nettle seeds over the top. So we've got the leaf and the seeds being used in this recipe. The reason this is interesting, this book, you see, is because in terms of making leather, it's also about combining materials. So for example, this fantastic mushroom here, it's called amadou or tinder fungus or hoof fungus. And it was used by our ancestors for thousands of years. Carry an ember, it burns super slow. I know this to my cost because I got an ember in here by mistake and it literally took days to put out.
Where did you find that? It's huge.
On a tree down in the woods here. So anyway, the insides of here can be taken out. And in fact, there you go. That's all taken out there.
And why did you take them out?
Well, because that can be boiled up. It's quite high in tannin. And then I can make a solution like that. Then I can put the fish skin in it. What I love about that is there's a tradition of using this mushroom, not for tanning the skins, but for making hats out of the mushroom.
That's a mushroom hat?
This is made out of this.
No.
Yeah.
It looks like a leather or a...
Well, it looks like leather, but it's more like felt. So this is a smaller one. So you take the hard woody surface off. That hard woody surface you take off, and then you cut out these pieces. And I have to tell you that this bit here was actually that size. But then you stretch it and you stretch it. And then this bit here was about that size. So you carefully stretch it.
Wow.
And then you've got your material that you can ultimately use to make the hat. So the question is, how would I make a hat if I didn't have all the industrial inputs to make a hat? Well, okay, I can use this fungi. Or I can use this fungi directly to make a hat. Or I can use the tannins from the fungi to make some fish leather to then make a hat. Or some boots, or some bags, or some clothes. So we've got the birch polypore here, which makes the paper, but also this birch polypore here is making a medicinal tincture. So when it's extracted the bitter principles, these are going to be combined with our most nutritious wild berry, which is sea buckthorn, to candy your mushrooms. But when you've got the berry cluster, you actually have to cut off the sprigs of leaves. The sprigs of leaves not only make an incredibly health-promoting tea, they are very tannic. So they are excellent for tanning leather. You can see how the foraging, it produces food, it produces medicine, it produces crafts. But often, all those things can come just from the gathering of one or two things. And when the chain of connection between them is really tight and close, I get really excited about that. It's also a bit of a joke that I say with people when I'm running courses. Say, how do you start foraging? I say, well, either right where you are or just step outside your back door. So Dyer's maizegill, it grows with pine. We've got Scots pine here, and here it is, just growing down here. It's one of the really kind of highly prized Dyer's mushroom.
Oh, dyer. Okay, so for...
Do you know, when I'm talking about mushroom and dyeing, you always have to be absolutely clear. Hey, what dyeing are we talking about? The dyeing when you eat death caps or the dyeing for colour? So yeah, so this is the dyeing for colour, yeah.
It's just that part that's yellow that you use for dyeing, or the whole?
Well, you can get yellow out of all of it, but the end bits are best. Yeah, and you can get greens if you add different mordants and things. I want to show you some others because definitely. I only discovered all this morning, to be honest. This is what, yeah, so... Oh, by the way, making blusher custard, it's out of these mushrooms in the Amanita family.
And these are good for the custard.
It's just, you know, I like to hear you say it because I'm enjoying the absurdity of it. And I think a lot of what I do is, it's like, well, how do you make it a little bit playful? Just let's get a little bit beyond going out and getting some mushrooms and frying them in a pan. But let me show you some more of these Dyer's maizegills and have a blackberry along the way. Yeah. No, try one. At least the one I had was good.
Yeah, thank you.
We've barely gotten away from the house yet. I mean, and we've already found so many.
This is the thing, and in fact, you know, maybe at the beginning when you're foraging, you're roving around over miles of territory, but when you really start to narrow down and look, it's like, oh wow, and then it becomes a mile, then it becomes like a few hundred meters, and then. Honestly, you can find a spot like this, and then you can see we've got birch here, we've got a little bit of rowan here, we've got different types of moss. We could use virtually all of these either medicinally or for food or for making tans. This isn't even a particularly good spot. I mean, being outside, I mean, you can Yeah, you can have some.
Is that a mushroom? Oh yeah.
Yeah, that is a mushroom. It's grown and then it's kind of rotted and fallen over.
Do you know what it is?
Well, I can tell you what genus it is.
Yeah?
It's in the Russula or brittle gills. Although, that doesn't care what some taxonomist thinks about it. It's the same thing. Oh, this is wonderful. So, okay, you should ask me a question that we need to go and speak to a lawyer about.
Oh.
Put you on the spot. Yeah, no, it's just because this one is called lawyer's wig. It's called shaggy ink cap or lawyer's wig because in the UK, the lawyer has got to dress up in this gown and wear this stupid wig. Anyway, they look like this. They're really delicious. So here's a question. Can you go out and pick mushrooms on somebody's land without permission? I don't know. Let's ask a lawyer. What do you think of this question? So here they are, look, dyer's maize gill for dyeing fish skin or for dyeing cloth or dyeing paper or making paint with. And all around this old pine stump. We've got some other ones here.
So will you come back here? Like, do you take note of where things are?
Yeah, I think what I'm doing all the time is I'm always mapping multi-layered maps in my mind. But I think, more than anything, what I'm tapping into is my own curiosity. I want to know, I want to discover, I want to know about the biochemistry, I want to know about the herbal use, I want to know about its craft use. Yeah. That's the driving force.
I'm surprised we've seen so many types of mushrooms just in,
Within the premises of your house, it's crazy.
Oh man, you've seen nothing yet. Kind of blue-green. But if you incorporate some of this into your mushroom paper, the bugs won't eat it. It's beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful colour. It is. Unfortunately, it's really hard to extract as a natural dye because it's not soluble in water or alcohol or anything, really. If these were higher up ones, I would show you something really great, but I can't quite get to it. This is called an artist bracket. So you can etch into them or you can draw into them. There's some of these on one that's 5 minutes walk up there, but they're higher up. But what would be really fun is to write on there. Right, the tree, I haven't seen it for a while, but I think it's just down here. Ah, that's the one. Although I haven't been here for a couple of years, to be honest, so. If you allow yourself to be influenced by the forest, some kind of magic can happen in places like this, Ah, perfect. Well, I don't know. Let's see. There's that. Just in terms of an experience of kind of radical kind of oneness with the natural world. Ah, this is the one. Yeah, so here we are. Both in terms of the sounds and the smells, and allows you to enter there. Now, what shall we ask? Can I tan a fish skin? That is the question.
It's funny now that you've talked about these, I spot mushrooms, but in the past I think I would have thought it was just bark. Unless you're, unless you're sort of aware of it and know what to look for, you don't see.
Yeah. So a friend of mine, she used to do wild walks in London, and I loved what she called invisible food, because if you don't know, it literally doesn't exist. Yeah. You don't see it.
You don't see it. You've seen so much today.
Yeah, right. Where did I put the pan? That's what I don't see. The enjoyment for me of wild food, the eating it sounds absurd, but probably the least part. The most enjoyable is being out here. And it's the gathering, and it's the adventures, the things that you noticed, like the insects you hadn't seen before.
I've seen that. There's another mound in there, right?
Oh,
Is that
wow.
another?
That's all locked into the experience of eating that food in the end. That's quite a big one. Got nothing to offer.
No more fish.
No more fish. So sometimes people say to me, in the context often of tapping birch trees for sap or things like that, is like, does it damage a tree, or looking for another fungi? Is it on a dead tree or a living tree? And I say, well, yeah, well, what do you mean by dead? And this is a great example. This tree isn't dead in a sense, it's just at a stage in the cycle. And it is the life force for this other tree that's growing from the top. So we've got a beech tree, and I think, yeah, this is we've got, you can tell from the wonderful aromatics here, we've got western hemlock spruce. And this is a little western hemlock spruce that's growing in the beech tree. Isn't that wonderful?
So it has mushrooms, that's spruce?
It's a spruce tree, mushrooms, there's a lot going there. That's definitely not a dead tree. It's got ants, and you imagine the number of insect species that are probably either benefiting from the inside or are feeding on the insects that are around there. So, there's a whole ecosystem going on here. Amazing. Also, just looking at the natural world and seeing how life perpetuates life, and death, life follows death, and endlessly. It's wonderful. The God in nature.